In this video, we're going to take a look at the switch case statement in Java. In our previous video, we took a look at another way to do a conditional, which is an if test with an optional else part, or a series of else ifs between the if and the else part as well. If you're interested in that video, the playlist is in the summary of this video. Nonetheless, one thing with if, else if, and else is that only one of these options will ever execute through one run. In other words, as soon as one of these tests evaluates to true, it's going to skip all future tests. And if none of them evaluate to true, it will come down and do the else part. But there might be a time when we want to have a block of code that will run in multiple circumstances. For example, let's go back to our demonstration we've been using, which is creating a truck. And you see the trucks are offered in different trim levels. So for the F-150, the XL is kind of the most economical trim level, and it comes with certain features. We see 3.5 V6 AM/FM stereo with clock, automatic transmission. Now, the trick is that the automatic transmission comes with every F-150 now. You cannot no longer get one in a manual. So if we go down to the XLT, what you're going to see is XL basic features plus these and more. And then if we go to the Lariat, we see XLT basic features plus these. So essentially, every time you go to a more expensive truck, you get the same features as the previous truck and then some. In other words, these features are going to apply to all, where these features will only apply to the limited. Towing capacity would be another good example of that, where every truck's going to come with some towing capacity, some larger than others. So let's see how we could model this with a switch case statement. Switch case is not frequently used in Java, and traditionally it's only been used with primitive types, although now you can use it with a string. So the basic syntax is this. We start with a variable. We'll say string trim level. Okay, and just for demonstration, we can say XLT. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll say switch, and in parentheses, we'll put some kind of variable, like in this case, trim level. And then we'll do open curly, close curly to demonstrate a block. So now we're going to say case, and let's say XLT. Old habits are hard to break. Then we'll have a colon, and then a break command. And we'll take this break back. We'll fix the indentation. And then case, we might say Lariat. Okay, and then a colon, and then a break command again. And then we can say default, and then a break after that. Okay, although the break there is not really necessary because we have the close curly. So what this means is if trim level is XLT, we're going to do any logic that occurs here. If trim level is Lariat, we're going to do any logic that occurs here. If the trim level is neither, then we come down to the default. And you see, unlike a traditional if test where each block is bound with an open and close curly, with a switch statement, we have an open and close curly, but the cases inside do not have curlies. Instead, the block starts with this colon and it ends with the word break. Now that's interesting, because what if we remove the word break? Well, then the block would start here and go all the way until the next break that it sees. And you see that there's a little bit of overlap here between XLT and Lariat. So all of the base features that are in an XLT are going to be here. Anything over and above that's a Lariat's going to be here. But you know what? Now that I look at it, it would make more sense to do this the other way around. In other words, like so. Okay, this I like a little bit better, because all trucks that are XLT or greater are going to get the features that are in that XLT trim. Only the Lariat features will go to the Lariat, like so. So in other words, if it's a Lariat, we get everything here. If it's an XLT, one second, we only get the features that are here. And we know there were a couple trucks that were a bit higher priced than the Lariat. There's the Platinum, the King Ranch, and the Limited. Let me get those in order. So the King Ranch, the Platinum, and the Limited. So the Limited is going to have the most features of all. So it might make sense to put that one first. Case limited. Okay, and now you see what's going to happen is that's going to get all features that are here plus all features that are here. where the Lariat, the base Lariat model, is not going to get the limited features, it's just going to get the ones that are here. And we still have to fill out what those features are, but nonetheless, no problem. So limited, platinum, King Ranch. Let's do each of those. Case, let me make sure I got those in order. Yeah, limited, platinum, and King Ranch. Okay, platinum. So that's the second most expensive model. Case, and then we'll say King Ranch. That's the third most expensive model. Case Lariat, Case XLT, and let's go ahead and do one for the very base model, which is Case XL. Okay, and terminate with a semicolon. Terminate that with a colon. Okay. Now, we need to also ask the user, hey, which trim level do you want? So we'll want to put these together in a JOption pane just like we did above, where we define an array and we put each of these options in that array. So let me go ahead and do that now. I also want to make them constants. So let's see, how many trim levels do we have? It looks like about 6. So I'll say string. Remember, we're going to do this as an array. So string, open, close square brackets, and then possible trim levels. Now, before what we've done, it's kind of interesting. Before what we've done is we've declared a string array like so, where we declare the array and its capacity, and then we assign values to that array. There is a little shortcut that we can do, which is if we say string with the open and close square brackets, and then a variable name, what we can do next is do open curly, close curly, terminate with a semicolon, and then we can simply put the options as a comma separated list within that open and close curly, and that will essentially define the array and its elements all in one line. Saves a bit of typing, and this isn't something I would always do, but then again, I want you to be able to recognize techniques and coding that other people will do that I wouldn't do. So we'll go ahead and put them like so, Lariat, and then XLT and XL. Okay. Now, we know I'm doing a no-no here, which is I'm putting a string literal twice in my program. And in that case, it's much more efficient to make a constant. So remember our shortcut in NetBeans, Shift-Alt-C will extract a constant. And I'll go ahead and say limited, like so, and replace all occurrences I really like, because it notices I've used the same string twice here, and it can replace both of them with the same constant. You see how that happened? So that's going to save us a lot of trouble if we were to have a spelling or a capitalization error. Now we're not comparing two things that happen to be spelled the same. We're actually comparing two things that are identical. So just a few more of these, like so. Okay. And there we go. And you see that it's smart when it picks the constant name. It just happens to give it the same as the contents of the string at this point. But you see now we're dealing actually with constants. We're not dealing with strings. Let's start by prompting the user for, we'll just borrow what we've done up here, but we'll start by prompting the user for which trim level he or she prefers. So I'll say, okay, we'll say object selected trim, or let's say the selected trim equals JOption pane show input dialog. Okay, then we'll say choose a trim type, and then we'll say trim selection. Question message is fine. What we want to change, instead of passing in the cab array, we want to pass in the possible trim levels. And then once again, we use a constant to set the default. Let's set the default at just XL, the most affordable trim level. Okay, now let's say I'm going to rearrange some things here. We're going to say string trim level equals selected trim to string. Note that it returns an object to us, so we want to, the JOption pane returns an object, so let's convert it to a string. Okay, I'll put some comments here. Prompt the user for trim level. Okay, and then up here we'll say set the possible trim levels. Okay. Convert user's choice to a string. Okay. Now we'll say build option packages based on trim selection. Okay, now we're going to, for each of these options, we're going to add to basically a long string that contains options. There's a better way to do this, and that is an array list full of options, but we don't know what an array list is yet, so we're just going to tack everything onto a string. Now remember, when we're making a string, we can start it with, we can assign it like so, and then we can say selected options equals selected options plus automatic transmission. We can do that, but it is not necessarily the most efficient way to do it, because every time we try to change a string, what we actually end up doing is creating a new string. So a better way to do it is with a string builder. So I'm going to string builder selected options equals new string builder. Okay, that's a little more efficient way to operate with strings. Oh, oops. Let me go ahead and remove what I've done up here. Okay, so now what we'll do, we know that all trucks are going to come with an automatic transmission. So under Excel, I'm going to say selected options dot add, and we'll say automatic transmission. We might put some kind of bar on each side of this, just so we can kind of identify, so we can tell which option is which. We can kind of see a break between the options. So there we go. Oops, selected options dot append. There we go, selected options dot append. Okay, so what does the XLT give us that the XL does not? Let's see. So we start with the XLT, or we start with the XL, just a moment. And we know they're all going to have automatic transmission. I won't pick every one of these options, I'll just pick a few. Okay, XLT comes with power equipment group. So let's take a look. If I'm up here, I'm in options that the XLT is going to get, and all features above it, but not the XL. So XLT, we're going to say, there we go, and we're going to say power equipment group, so power windows and the like. Okay, so we'll say power equipment. Okay, what does the Lariat have that the XLT does not? Lariat has Sync 3 rear view camera. Let's go with rear view camera on that one. Okay, I think it's safe to say that everything that's a Lariat or more expensive is going to have that rear view camera. Probably one of my favorite features of my truck, to be honest with you. Rear view camera. Okay, King Ranch, what does the King Ranch have? 5.0 liter V8. Okay, so we'll say 5.0 V8. Now Platinum, what do we have with Platinum? Voice activated navigation, and with Limited we have twin panel moonroof. So we'll say for Platinum, voice activated navigation. And for Limited, we're going to say twin moonroof. Okay, so what we'll do, default, I'm going to say selected options.append, and we'll say I do not recognize this trim level. Okay. Now what we'll do when this is all over is we'll show a message box, and we'll show all of the features that the user has selected. So J-option pane, show message dialog. We'll start with null because we're running in command line, and then we'll say selected options, and we will say plus selected options dot toString. Might be a long list depending on what we choose. So let me go ahead and save. And again, what we're expecting here is if we get King Ranch, we get all of these features. If we get Limited, we see all of these features. XLT, we're going to see a shorter list, only these two. And then XL, we're just going to see this right here. So let's go ahead and run and see what we get. Okay, I'll right click, and I'm going to choose Run. We'll skip over the parts we've already seen. So what is your name? Brandon. We'll go ahead and fast forward through a few of these. Choose a cab type, super cab, medium bed. Yeah, that's good. Okay, your selections are valid. Choose an engine. Okay, what towing capacity do you want? We'll say 5,000. We did those in the previous video. Now the trim type. Here's the important part. Let's start with Excel, and we should just see automatic transmission. Sure enough, selected options, automatic transmission. Let's run this one more time, and let's pick the Lariat. Okay, and again, I'll forward through these things we've already seen. Okay, towing capacity 5,000. Now trim type, let's go ahead and go with Lariat, which is a higher end model, but not the highest end. And now we should see 3 options. And sure enough, rear view camera, power equipment, automatic transmission. One more run through this. Whoops, wrong one. Sorry. One more run through this, and we should see, we'll pick the King Ranch or the Platinum this time. Okay, so this time we'll go with the limited, the one with all of the options, and now we should see all of the options displayed. Sure enough, twin moonroof, voice activated navigation, 5.0 V8, rear view camera, power equipment, and automatic transmission. So the switch case statement is good if you have a case like this where you have different cases and you want multiple blocks to run. The one thing about the switch case statement is that you have to be careful with the brake, because if you don't want everything to get automatic transmission, if you want maybe 2 different cases, we'd put a brake here. And then these blocks would run until they see the brake. This block would run completely separately. The caution is if you forget a brake. For example, if I forget the brake that comes between the case XL and default, there should be a brake there, because default just means it's not one of the trim levels that was given. So there should be a brake separating these 2 concepts. So if I run it now, what we're going to see is that no matter what I choose, even if it's a valid trim level, it's going to come up and say, I do not recognize this trim level. So that's the biggest risk with switch case, is forgetting to put a brake where you want a brake. Just be careful of that. And you could put a brake after any one of these cases. In my business case here, in my use case, I wanted this to show all the trim levels and this to show if we picked an invalid trim level, and those would be 2 totally different flows. So just be careful with the brakes. I will say you don't see switch case used a whole lot in Java, because it does tend to be used with things like primitives more often. And honestly, people are worried about forgetting that brake. So if tests are a bit more common, but switch case certainly has its use as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.